I think madness and love can happen at the same time if boundaries aren't set inside of a relationship. Because you can get obsessed with someone else, especially if you have a tendency in your personality to develop a certain madness. And so there's where limits need to be set, and both parts of the relationship need to understand them. But also, there's the fact that you get to do things in a relationship that you otherwise wouldn't do, and they could be seen as some sort of a madness, and they can be seen as some sort of mad attitudes that you get to do for that person or the relationship that you have with that person.
This season has a different tone, but not in the universe it seems to be in. The mental state of our protagonist is presented to us from the beginning as unstable, and for that reason, this season differs from the other because we travel through the fine line between reality and fantasy. We don't know for sure if what the protagonist is narrating to us is real, because his perception of what he observes and remembers has gaps, blank spaces, and the most important thing, he himself is not clear to whom he is dedicating this postcard, because she, the one he claims to love, doesn't even exist. It's a creation of his lonely, love-obsessed mind. In that way, this season has a more distressing tone. Its narrative has abstract moments, but what connected to the other is the theme that film Postcards tries to address. The different ways that our different narrators have of feeling, healing, facing, perceiving loneliness or the loss of something. In this case, the loneliness caused by a love that never came, and that have to be created from fiction.
I think it honestly can be both, because as it was said before, love can turn into a really mad relationship and it can bring some sort of crazy attitudes to it, but also it can also be an illusion that makes you go mad for you to be able to process what's happening and make it seem like something that it actually isn't.
The connection between the faster montage and what happened to the main character has to do with his breaking point. His mind is not right, and somehow those phrases and images that he tries to put together and collect are just pieces of that love that he tried to create. His inability to understand the magnitude of the meaning of loving something that does not exist leads him to an impossible puzzle to solve. And on a second thought, isn't that love? Brief fragments of joy, sad moments, beginnings, endings, getting lost, brief moments of madness? Is not love a fragment of our dreams but also of our nightmares? With this in mind, the same protagonist constantly asks himself that, and that confusion of not knowing, in a symbolic way, if love wakes you up or makes you sleepy is what drives him crazy.
I think no matter the interpretation that I had towards the entirety of the season, I always gravitated towards an ending in which our main character was able to meet this woman and not being able to express everything that he said on the short films. Because you see, it's pretty easy to just say things in your head and say things to something that you think is real but it actually isn't. But once it's real, you can touch it, you can see it with your eyes. It's a completely different story, and therefore I think our character wouldn't be able to actually translate everything that he said in the short films in the face of the woman that he's saying these things to.
I think there was a love story in this season, but not a usual love story. This season is in fact a love letter to the love that never was. Those love stories that were never fulfilled, that did not have their beginning, and that in part is the greatest pain of a romantic soul, which in the end become in a sick heart. That is why the sender of the postcard is a patient. We have seen how fiction has idealized for us that narrative of love at first sight, of the concept of a soulmate, or of the chosen one. So we ended up having a love affair with something that is not real, and what a major disease it is to love something impossible.